Hey, Mahogany.
Hi. Hi,
Happy book
Chlorine.
birthday. Happy Chlorine Sky Day.
Body roll. Body roll. Body roll.
I am
I
so
am so
proud of
happy.
you. I'm so happy. I'm like, this book is everything, and your voice, your words, everything about it is just so nurturing and loving. And it is like a gift to every little Black girl out there. So thank you for writing it.
Thank you. Thank
It,
you, Glory. That makes me so happy.
it is like I'm telling everyone buy this book, read this book, and we're here at the Friendship Summit to celebrate your book. And I think like we should
Yes.
just start in the very, 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 very beginning. So like why did you decide to tell this story?
So the story came about really because I wrote this poem, and the poem was called Blurred Vision, and it was about a moment when I was younger, high school, at a pool party, and I was trying to think of like, I'd done writing workshops, and I was trying to just think of like, when was the most vulnerable? Like, when did you learn to unlove? Like, I was asking all these really hard, open-ended questions, and that moment, it had everything, all of it combined. How I thought of myself, how I began allowing others' thoughts about me to teach me who I was to me. It was a one moment, and it felt like a blip, but in reality, when I looked back at the snapshot, just like a picture of that moment, I realized like that was the beginning of this like tumultuousness, who I am, why do I think, I'm this kind of person, and how important are the friendships around me to who I decide I'm going to be.
Right.
And that poem happened, but the poem had a very strong narrative, so strong that my first children's book author, first children's book editor asked if it was a book, and I said, yeah, of course, yeah, doing it. I'm finishing, but it's done. And really, it was like 10 poems. 10 poems that built this story. It was not at all this novel in verse that it is today. It wasn't even 3 pages of this novel in verse, if I'm honest, but it was this beginning. And I knew that I had it. I just hadn't dedicated any time to it. And I had never written a YA novel before. So I also was, while I was scared to say, yes, it's done, I'm ready, I was also scared to say that I'm a YA author. So that's how it started.
I love to hear that. I mean, you being so honest about what you struggled with and even your self doubt, taking these poems into this full narrative. Can you talk about what that was like, being able to say, okay, I'm a poet, but I'm entering this new space that I'm unfamiliar with? How did you really find your footing in becoming a YA author?
Um, so I got my first push to consider the genre from Jason Reynolds, who is a dear friend. We both have known Jason. I mean, like how long now, right?
Right.
And this brother, he's one of those persons that is always rooting for you, even when you don't know it, right? So like we could just have a brunch in Brooklyn, and he's like, "Yo, you got to think about the YA like gang. Like it's great for voices like you. You could tell stories. People need to hear you." And I said, I don't know. I curse too much. I'm not sure. That's not really my lane. That might not be my ministry. and and literally, he said it enough for me to like consider it. And then I had this interest during this writing workshop where I was performing for the young people, and so I took him seriously. But of course, I was like, well, if I do it, I'm gonna need your help. Like, you need to be honest.
Yeah.
Do not let me write something that's bad. Like, don't let me do that to myself.
Right.
And he's, of course, would never. If anything about Jason Reynolds is he keeps it trill, right? So I jumped I jumped in, and it took me about a year and a half, 6-7 drafts. What made me think that I belong though? I don't know, right? Because even now I feel out of sorts. Like it's its own world. I've spent the last 20 years doing poetry, even performance poetry or slam poetry or whatever, but poetry focused for the last 20 years and very intentional about that time, about the time that I donated to spaces and curated spaces. And the YA is a whole nother game, a whole nother world. So I definitely am the new kid on the block. And while I know some, major players, because I mean, at the end of the day, these people are some of the most brilliant, but they also started in poetry. So I met Jason as a poet. I met Elizabeth Acevedo as a poet. So I know that there is room for me here. I just, I had to see it, I guess, in full form to realize that I'm home.
It is such a wonderful achievement, and I'm excited to read it in a group, because like reading it privately, I had so many moments where I was just like either laughing out loud or crying or remembering what I was like as a young person, and I was like struggling to figure out my identity, struggling to
Mhm.
understand the just like the strength of friendship. Friendship can really move you in so many different directions. If you have some people that love and want to grow with you, or people that are not necessarily like the people that you can trust, you know what I mean? Like, and it's hard to decipher that when you're a young person. Reflecting
Mm,
on it as an adult, I'm like, oh, okay. I feel very fortunate to have I will have like a handful, at least like five girlfriends that I've known from like high school that we've all grown up together. I know that's like a
mhm,
rare thing. But in this book, there is a story of Sky, and she is making these decisions. And she has this best friend who's maybe not a best friend,
right,
who might be making some real questionable choices. Can
right.
you like take us back to when you were a young person and you were trying to figure out like who my people are? Like, how did you
Mm,
decide what friendship meant to you? You know what I'm saying? Like,
mhm,
is it
mhm,
that is like the theme of this book? It's friendship and it's renewal, and it's also like self discovery. Like everything about Sky
mm,
is about discovering herself. And I think like
mhm,
you have to have an emotional and personal connection to that story in order to tell it as clearly as you do. You know what I
mm,
mean?
Thank you. I love that. It's funny because I think for so long, even while Sky comes to an understanding, or even stakes a claim in the footwork that is becoming who she is, right? Like when you say, no, this is, like, if there's a conviction in who you are and how you speak up for yourself, even that is a moment of reclamation. And I'm not certain that when I was this young, when these moments were happening, that I had that kind of foresight. I'm not sure. Um, but so there's, okay, so lately is so many, right, different people in my world. Like most fiction stories, it's an amalgamation of things. It's a whole bunch, right? You put this face together and you put that background together and you remember this story, and then there's like four other people that were there, but you make them one. It happens for a lot of writers in this way. But there's one part in here where there's someone that's introduced, and that's someone who actually was it's still my friend. Like, we took pictures together, a 1 hour photo every Saturday. So like there's instances where I was feeling like real love, true love, and seen by someone, and I tried to put um, her and our friendship in here. Like I tried to like commemorate that understanding when it came to be, but I'm not certain that when I was in it that I understood. I don't think I was. At least I can't remember, right? When I was talking to her though about it, because I sent her a copy, she said like, "Oh no, you used to cut people off. Like that was your thing." And I was like, "Really? I thought I got that at 21. I didn't know I was like a revolutionary at 15." Turns out there was things I just wasn't going for. I don't really remember it that way because I was so maybe myopic in just how something happened and how I felt. I didn't really see how my responses were affecting others, right? I didn't really see me standing up for myself. I just saw maybe me like jabbing back or lashing out as a means of self-defense, and or as a means of like, just keeping myself protected and close, and how do I do that, to preserve myself.
I love the fact that you use the word preserve, because there is, I, two of my favorite words that I repeat to myself and I really try to keep in the mission of Well Read Black Girl are self preservation and
Mhm,
self determination. And
mhm,
those two things are necessary for you to have a claim in the world and to really be focused on what you want to achieve. You know, whatever it
mhm.
is, whatever industry, you need to be able to like know yourself, know your ideals, and be determined to reach them in a way that is not hurting others. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just like a code that you need to abide by. And I love the fact that you can see Sky developing her own code. You know what I mean? Like she's
Mhm.
understanding like how she needs to move in the world, who she needs to
Right.
be in order to not be not shrink or play small. Um, and all that to say is for the young people reading this book, what would you tell them about like showing up in the world and not being small?
Mm. I would say it is scary, no doubt. And still, you will not be safe as you think, right? When we think like, oh, I'm not going to say anything, you think that you are keeping yourself out of the fray of discussion, or you're keeping yourself away from someone who might make a judgment. That's already happened, right? The way we walk into a room, it happens. The neighborhoods we live in, it happens. The people we choose to hang around, someone has decided already, right? There's a prejudgment that happens about you, whether you like it or not. So it is not only your duty, but it is your right to just take up space and be your full bodied self, so that you don't find yourself stifling your own growth to make someone else comfortable, or to make sure that you aren't, like, one's making jokes about who cares. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't affect you. I'm not saying that it doesn't hurt, but I am saying that it is fleeting. The one thing that remains is you. So if you love you enough, if you even love the idea of you tomorrow, like, that's enough to stand up and take space.
That, I mean, that is so necessary for young people, for all people, quite honestly, to know that you deserve to take up space and you don't need to play small for
Hmm.
anyone.
That's right. That's
It,
right.
it and it's I feel like that is definitely a reoccurring theme in your book. What are the other themes that you feel like young people or anyone reading? I would, because this is a
Mhm.
YA book, but also adults pick it up, read it. Like it's so good. It really
Yes.
is for anyone who wants to learn more about themselves and reconnect to their younger self. So what would you say to the people? Like, what are the other themes that you feel like, okay, this is what I'm putting down, this is what y'all need to be picking up when you're reading
Hmm.
this novel?
Thank you. I love that question, because folks say, oh, it's about friendship. And I thought, okay, it can be. And, right, we're talking about how Black girls see themselves in a world that is constantly trying to erase them, erasing our hairstyles, erasing our fashion, erasing our language, erasing our aesthetic. Like, who I am when I walk in the room, someone can make enough noise and make it seem as if that just me walking in with this is too much. Like, whoa, like, I have people that are like, oh, I'm sorry. And then they go straight to like fight the power with me. And I'm like, that's cool, because I mean that. And I'm not going to stop being this either. You know what I mean? Just because my presence makes you uncomfortable, that's your bag. I can't hold that. It's too heavy. So I would say the other themes in here are self love, self worth. um, what does it mean for Black girls to have self worth today? What does it mean when our young people are dealing with issues of consent? Um, and it can be as something as small as somebody putting their hands on your body without your permission. That is also about consent. Um, what is it like to live in a single parent household? Like, what are the tremors that remain with these young people, that are, taking up a lot of uh, obligations and responsibilities to help their household. And I look at mass incarceration. I give a nudge, because I want you to know what makes single parenting households happen. Sometimes it's the politics themselves. It's the systems of oppression that take away these families ability to remain two-parent households or whatever. So we're talking about you know, the kaleidoscope of things in which a community ends up raising a child.
With you saying that, it makes me think of your other books, like especially your children's books and your poetry. Do you think that every book is standing on its own, or are they interconnected in some way? Because I do, as you're like naming themes, I feel like I see threads of that in
Yeah.
all of your work in some way. So do you see it as
Hmm.
like one large body of Mahogany's work?
I think it's like one large house, and
Mm,
there's some rooms that have entrances to each other. You know, there's some adjoining rooms, and there are some where you're gonna have to go down the hallway to get to the other conversation. But all of my work is a work that has a home. It's a house, and what I love about this is that it's a YA novel, yes, but it's a novel in verse. That's very much a part of my poetry background. And while it's speaking to a younger audience, I love that adults are reading this, because what it's asking them to do is to tap into that moment, because we really think that because I'm grown, I'm better.
right,
I'm grown, I'm good. And it's like,
right.
unless you've had therapy, right? Unless you've done like some real like dirge work to deal with how you feel abandoned if someone doesn't text you back. What does ghosting do to you? When I tell you, you will find out who you are in this day and age
Right.
when something happens and it takes you back to your younger self, and you have the
Yeah.
same reaction. You have that same like it's not disconnected, right? The reaction, it awakens this thing that you thought had healed, and then you realize the wound is actually not it's not closed, because even though we're grown up, we haven't tended to the wound. So this is my attempt to do so. This is not just a band-aid, but this is some suture work.
I love that. So with that in mind, what would you tell your younger writing self? You know, when you wrote that first poem, when you did
Hmm.
that first poetry collection, that first chapbook, and to
Mm,
see how far you've come and how your genre and just the way you use language has continued to transform. What would you
mhm.
tell that young Mahogany writing that poem and trying to, realize who she is?
Keep going. Do it anyway.
Yes.
And like, I mean, those are really the only two that I would say. There was so much fear of judgment, or like, do I belong? And if I just remember those two sayings, keep going, do it anyway. Like, even if you're scared, do it anyway. Even if you don't trust this new voice, these new sea legs, this new space, do it anyway. Because what doesn't change is the intention behind the work. If you have some intention, if you stand for something bigger than just self, um, then there'll always be a space for you to harvest, right? Because you're tending to the land, and the land is you growing. But if you are like, I'm gonna just eat the food and walk away, then guess what's gonna happen? Like, you didn't toil anything. You didn't keep working because you believed in the fear. So stay focused, keep going, do it anyway.
That is wonderful advice. And it is something that anyone who is working on their writing, they're trying to, pursue any goal, like that keep going, that persevere, that builds and practice your resilience is what gets you to the end goal. Because it's
Right.
not, as you said, it's not about just kind of sitting there eating the food. You got to do the work too. You got to really be able to nurture
That's right.
yourself and cultivate community in a way that allows you to reap the benefits of just being reciprocal, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what, when I think about our friendship, I just think my first word that comes to my mind is just generosity. Like, you have such a generous, loving spirit, and you come in with so much joy and love, and also like a sense of like, watch me work, like, and I think that
Mm.
that energy inspires others. I know it inspires me to be like, okay, I can do it too. I can like keep up. I can just like, it's a motivating, encouraging vibe that I don't know if most people have. You because
Mm.
you see things, you see the obstacles in a way that it doesn't feel, what am I even it doesn't feel impossible. Like I can tell you like a really
Right.
hard, like crazy idea, and you're like, all right, okay, like this is how we can do it. Like you are ready with ideas and how to break it apart and make it achievable. Where some people could be
Right.
like, oh no, that's like too much, you're doing too much, take a nap, sit down, you know. And also friends should tell you when you're doing too much, but you have just a very
Mhm.
encouraging, generous spirit. And I just want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for this book. Yeah, oh, let me make sure it's up right. um, and just like in
Guess what
this
that
space
galley,
that
that's
we're,
that first galley love right there.
yes,
That's that
and
first
and
galley
it's
love.
up, okay, like beat up. I'm just really grateful that we have this space, and we're going to be talking to other women about what it means to be in friendship, what it means to be,
Hmm.
you know, just innovating, what it means to be of service to others, how to cultivate
Hmm.
community. And we have so many
Hmm.
people that are going to be joining us this today, celebrating your book and just having great conversation. And this is like the first of many,
Yes.
because you're going on tour, you're going to be having all kinds of like events to celebrate your book. So this is just the beginning, Mahogany, and we love you and we want to see you succeed with every book, every single book. So this is just
Thank
like, this is love. So I know
you.
you have some amazing like videos and things too. Can you tell us a little bit about the video that you created for the book? Like, it's so dope, and we're going to be watching it next.
Awesome. So this little collection that you'll see is me reading behind a beautiful shot of a sister named Alacia Smith, who is a basketball player and a poet. And the video edits are done by Jive Poetic, but it's me reading these small vignettes, moments that Sky is on the basketball court and really trying to figure out who she is, while, like, you know, working on who she is, right? So she's a baller, but she's also a girl, and she's also a friend, and she's also liking this dude. And so like how are these all these things orbiting her world while she is on this blacktop?
Before we watch, can you just close us out with one, like a poem from the
Of course.
collection?
Done and done. And I just want to say that I love you, Glory. Thank you so much for making this space. While you say I'm generous, you are that and beyond, which made it very easy. It's easy to show up for you and to love back, because you love Black girls so wholeheartedly, so freely. You don't even like take a beat to say yes. You're just like, of course, I got you. And all the women that are going to be here on the Friendship Summit, they have that same kind of energy. That's the lineage of the people that will be featured. Nick Stone is the person who brought my book to my editor at Crown. And Danielle Clayton is someone who always checks in on me and asks me like, all right, what's the next step? What do you need? Rachel Cargile is like phenomenal in the way that she holds space, asking the community to show up to assure that our mental health is taken care of and that we are secure, right? And Christine Platt, also another sister that checks in on me, that has always been like, whatever you are doing, let me know. Let's show up for each other. And of course, they're all inspiring in their own ways, you know. And finally, Jamila Woods, who will be closing, another one of those, I got you, sis, whatever you need. And it should be noted that I listened to her album relentlessly, like forever, ever. And so when I was like, well, maybe she can't do it because she's really busy. She just did the Tonight Show. Like, she got that banging album. Anybody that can write a song about a Toni Morrison book, listen. All right. And that's her. She's like the epitome. And even then, she's like, I got you. No worries. And those are the women that I'm so lucky to know and be surrounded by, people that just there's nothing more than our success that you want. You know what I mean? It's like there's not a you success or a me success. It's ours. Like, we are we are the ecosystem of fly and fresh, and can't nobody get with it. So I'm just happy to be here to celebrate that. Bow bow. Yes. And I'll end with okay. So there's a little piece here where I'm thinking about mom, the mom figure, right? And moms is, I told you earlier about when we're talking about how uh, how we're informed or we respond to these spaces as young people with more responsibilities than others. So what does it mean to, like, all right, what does your mom say? What does your mom need? Okay, I think I found it now. Okay. So again, I was talking about earlier, I think, Sky not understanding that she fly too. She just as fly as Laylee, right? She doesn't know her worth yet. Um, and she gets to hang out with a dude named Clifton. So I'll read a couple of pages of that. My first time out with Clifton, I know the world is going to end. Mama don't play that company over when grown folks out the house business. And even though Issa is home with cousin Inga, they ain't grown. They're just teenagers with the curfew that ain't dictated by the sun going down and the streetlights coming on. They're just teenagers who curse when the neighbors are looking, but never when their own parents are looking, because they ain't got a death wish. They're just teenagers with a taste for the kind of freedom they've only seen on sitcoms, the kind with two-parent households, not homes like ours. More like Inga's mom, my Auntie Renee, who saves coupons and works every day, clockwork ready for the water company. More like Inga's mom, Auntie Renee, who on her day off will drive by different houses with for sale signs plastered in their yard, with her eyes bright and dancing, singing Luther Vandross to whoever is in the passenger seat. More like Mama, who tells me to ignore Issa's attitude because she works too many hours and ain't got time to listen to our argument when she finally comes home. More like Mama, who calls me her baby, mostly because I am the last born, who works too many hours to make it to my basketball games, and the house better be clean because you don't want to get on her bad side. More like Mama, the sweetest woman I've ever known, who still got rules that we better follow because ain't nobody in this house more grown than her. The rules are easy. No boys in the house when I'm gone. Nobody who don't live here in this house when I'm gone. Who left on the light? Who do you think you are? Nobody mess up the kitchen before I get home to cook. Nobody eat all the cereal. Nobody eat all the bread. Nobody go begging for food like we're poor. You trying to make me look like a bad parent? You acting like you don't know no better? No, you can't go over to that house. Yes, you can go to the park, but be back before dark. Nobody walked the dog. Nobody folded the clothes. Who do you think I am? I work all day and got to come home and work too? No fighting in the house. No running from fights. That school better not call my phone. Don't steal snacks from the store. We ain't broke. Make ramen for snack. Make a peanut butter sandwich. Don't use all my butter. Don't eat all my cheese. Take the chicken out the freezer. Ain't nobody take the chicken out the freezer? Nobody call my phone unless the house is on fire. Watch your mouth. Who do you think you're talking to? I'm not one of your little friends. So when Clifton asked to use the bathroom after we walk home from the basketball game, I forget about Mama's rules. I am too busy thinking about the cold shoulder Laylee tossed my way. And I let you read the rest when you get the book. Ooh, ooh. I can sing. I was in the choir, child.
Said take the chicken out the freezer. I said yes, take the chicken out the freezer. That sounds like my mama too.
I feel like that was everybody's mom. They ask for small things.
Like, listen, make yourself a snack. Keep yourself occupied.
Yes.
My mom was notorious for saying,
do your part.
Yeah, do your part. Seriously, when we were having dinner, if me and my brothers were bickering, she would go, I want to eat my dinner in peace, not in pieces. That was her saying.
Ooh.
She was like,
that's a
quiet.
Good one.
We need peace at the dinner table. I'm going to take it. I'm going to use it.
Y'all are stressing me out.
Not stressing me out. I just came back. I came off of work. I don't need to work no more at home. Relax. That was her saying.
Right.
So thank you, Mahogany. Well, this is the beginning of so much more. We're going to have discussions next. We're going to have the video. We're also going to do an Ask Me Anything. So everyone stay tuned for more. Thank you for joining the Friendship Summit. Thank you, Mahogany.
Pew, pew, pew.